Well, hello there. This is something that, like many of us, is going to be very useful to change your state. Now, I want to give you a quick prelude into this, a tiny bit of the research where this came from, and invite you to do it. This is the important thing. So, this came about, a good friend that I care very deeply for gets a lot of headaches, they get migraines, they've had that for most of their life. They've tried things like facial fascial release. I've done acupuncture with them in their ears around here, etc. I've done fascial release. A little bit of relief, but not always. So I started to research, as one does, into migraines and basically any of kind of like the factors, if you like, that would lead up to a person getting a migraine. Now, obviously, many people have stresses in their lives, and one way the body says no, Gable mate, is if things are repressed, etc., you'll start to get physical symptoms. So exploring all of that kind of stuff. One of the things that I read about precursors to a migraine is a person will have a prolonged spell of yawning before a migraine. Now, this doesn't happen with everyone that gets migraines, but it might have been about 10, 15, 20%, as I remember reading it in an article. So I questioned them about that. Before your migraines, do you have prolonged yawning, etc.? The answer was no. I started to explore this with people who suffer from headaches, and I did this in two ways. I explained what I was doing, so I was very upfront about that. And the idea was to see if a prolonged period of yawning could produce a headache or a migraine. The answer to that, I'm not saying it was a big sample, maybe about 10, 12 people, that was zero. But something else started to happen. They started to feel different. So as an experiment, if you'd like to change your state and to feel good, this is I'd say about 90% of people that I've invited to do this have actually engaged in it, which is the important thing, for a set period of time. And in my own experience, massively, you really can shift your state into feeling good. Now, there's a whole bunch of, maybe they're myths, maybe they're realities, and of course they're both. Yawning can suggest you're bored. So you could be listening to a boring lecture and it could also mean you're very attracted to someone. Perhaps that accompanies some pupil dilation. Or it could just mean that it feels good and you're oxygenating your brain. So what's happening neurologically as you yawn, there is some neurotransmitters released. That would be of the good type. Perhaps as serotonin, perhaps as dopamine. All big stuff. What's important here is, you might have heard of things like laughter yoga, where you do something consciously, as in you pretend to laugh, ho, ho, ha, 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 all that stuff. And that's a 20-minute session. And somewhere along that, for most people, that contrived laughter turns into very real laughter. And the beauty is your body doesn't know the difference. Laughter's good for you. We know this. There's some research, and I believe I heard this first from that genius, that giant in the field, Richard Bolstad, that it takes 20 minutes to grow and solidify a new set of neural dendrites, basically the plasticity of your brain where you're learning something, and that learning is a physical shift of aspects, axons, dendrites in your brain that are shifting and moving about as you learn new stuff. So there's a 20-minute gap here. This is the same 20 minutes in Phil Jeremiah's provocative humor works, laugh yourself out of your problem stuff. It's all 20-minute windows. This is the same as AMI. It's the same as AMDR. There's this 20-minute window, and that is something I'm suggesting you build up to. But the gist of this is very simple. As you yawn, you might have noticed a lot of people, perhaps you, regularly throughout the day, you see their shoulders are tense. Maybe there's tension in the jaw. Places where people hold a lot of tension, there's there in the hips too. Now, when you yawn, naturally, you're starting to change, you're starting to relax, you're starting to essentially do jaw yoga, you're shifting stuff about. So there's a lot of benefits for this. And this is my invitation to you if you really want to change your state. And if you do this, please get back to me with your results. So this is no more simple and no more complicated than this. You start to yawn. Has anyone know any good dentists out there? And as you're doing that, you're stretching your jaw. You're releasing all of those natural chemicals that are good for you. And if you know anything about James Lange's theory that when your body physically has a physiological experience, somehow your brain makes sense of that. So if someone's walking around with their jaw clenched all day, that tension is being in some sense understood by your limbic system and that gleaming piece of gold on top of your cerebral cortex and making meanings out of it. So that's why someone can quite easily mistake anxiety for excitement. So there's this loop that goes around, a Papez loop. So we're working basically with the idea of what you're doing physiologically, same thing with laughter yoga, is going to change your state. So if you start to yawn, and you might do that, it's like if you remember in childhood when those Nitty Nora, the Dicky Explorer, would come round and collect all those little samples off other children's, perhaps your own head, or if you start mentioning that story about seeing ticks and nits on people, especially on public transport if someone's around, and if you scratch while you're doing it, they might start to scratch. So there's definitely a transmission effect. What I'm inviting you to do, even before you start to do this, is make some sort of sliding scale from -5 to +5, 0 being I just feel okay as I am, -5 not okay, less okay, pretty shitty, to yeah, I'm all right, getting good, yeah, this is good, wow, I feel great and energized. Start to practice deliberate yawning, and eventually I'm suggesting starting for a minute, 2 minutes, just to continue deliberately yawning. And it's probably going to be a bit more challenging than you think to do that for 20 minutes. And as you do that, you might start to notice that not only is your state shifted, obviously you're oxygenizing or energizing or bringing a lot of more oxygen into you. That's got to be a good thing, as long as you don't over-oxygenate. Your jaw's starting to get a massage. And over the next few days, perhaps you could start today, is to practice yawning for 3 minutes, monitoring your state, which is the important bit. And if that's having some sort of positive one, note it and keep a record of the time you yawn for, ideally moving up to 20 minutes, and monitoring your state. So this is an invitation. It's something very, very simple. It's not copyrightable. And you can teach it and try it with everyone. And it really will if you do it for a whole bunch of reasons. Shift your state. You may find yourself waking up and being a bit more energized too. So I hope you give that a go. It's something useful, it's something to play with. And as far as I can see, from the feedback that I get from other people and from my own experience, a prolonged period of yawning start to make you feel better and more awake. So it's something you need to do consciously until some of that aspect of you overtakes that, and you start to feel good in different ways. And just as a slight warning, if you do suffer from migraines, just be wary of that. That's the little proviso. I haven't found this to cause or to stop migraines, and anyone that does suffer from migraines that I've tried this with, I'm just letting you know. So happy yawning, and if you really want to engage in this and find out what happens to your state, please do it and share it in the comments. That's all for now. Yawn for pleasure. Bye.